The SEC has called off Saturday's games between Alabama and LSU and Texas A&M and Tennessee as a result of COVID testing, which has depleted the Tigers and the Aggies rosters. This coming on the heels of Monday's decision to postpone Auburn-Mississippi State after the Bulldogs had similar issues with positive test results and subsequent contact tracing. So this is really a mess. Let me bring in Heather Dinich and Paul Finebaum. Good morning to both of you. Heather, what more can you tell us? Because right now things feel very precarious in the SEC.
Well, Greeny, on Tuesday, all 14 SEC athletic directors agreed that December 19th, which is the day of the SEC Conference Championship game, that should also be used as a makeup date. So that's why they didn't entirely close the door on Alabama-LSU and say it's canceled. Now, Alabama is obviously the front runner to win the West and play in that SEC Championship game. And if that happens, then the LSU game would probably be canceled. But look, at the end of the day, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee does not need to see Alabama play a struggling LSU team to figure out if it's one of the top 4 teams in the country. But on Thursday, the SEC presidents and chancellors will review the idea of potentially using December 19th as a makeup date.
So I want to ask you something, and I wonder if this has been raised to them yet. As cases continue to rise all over the place, one would assume that we're going to continue to see more of this. The idea of pushing everything back, has that begun to be discussed by them? Again, December 19th is when they would play these championship games. December 20th is when they're supposed to choose the 4 teams. Have they begun to consider the possibility they would have to push that date back?
No, there have been no conversations about that. I would be surprised. It's not impossible, but it would be a Herculean task. And Greeny, finding a TV window, as you know, during NFL playoffs would be extremely difficult. So You're looking at status quo, January 11th, Miami Gardens, and that's the national championship for now. But I will certainly let you know if that changes, but I highly doubt it.
Thank you. Paul, what do you think?
It's a mess, and you're right, Greeny, and there's a lot of frustration inside the SEC about player behavior. What I mean by that is, at this point in the season, we're mid-November, players are getting tired of following protocols. Halloween was a week and a half ago, and a lot of people think maybe that was one of the super spreaders that caused these issues. The biggest issue is the contact tracing. It doesn't take much. We've been through this movie a million times before. But what Heather said is really interesting. Alabama doesn't really need to do anything else. I think everyone acknowledges they're at least one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country, if not the best. But just think about that LSU-Alabama game being scrubbed. We sat here a year and a week ago talking about that game literally all week. All eyes were on that game. The President of the United States was at that game. And to think that that game goes by the wayside is a body blow, at least to the image of the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest game of the year. And for those kids at LSU who are having a bad year, that could be their Super Bowl. That could be the one thing they get to do this season. And quickly, what ramifications in your mind, Paul, does all of this have on the playoff ultimately?
Well, it probably won't seriously impact it because some of the games we're seeing get postponed or canceled are not going to be germane to the playoffs. Right now in the SEC, you have Alabama and Florida. They very likely will meet. And if Florida beats Alabama, they're a serious playoff contender. They'll probably get in. A&M, Texas A&M is sitting there in the top 5 or 6. They really don't have a path right now, and that's the frustration because they lose another game to show that they are one of the best teams in the country.
All right, all this stuff bears keeping an eye on, and Paul and Heather will be doing that for us, no question. Guys, thank you both so much for getting up early here. Let us know if anything changes. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.